Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Huddle. We've got two high-profile negotiations appearing to sort of fracture into a million little pieces, at least right now. In Iran, overnight, they responded to the Trump administration's 15-point plan for peace talks. President Trump is probably not going to like what they said, even though he has been suggesting those talks have been rather productive to reporters. And then back here in the U.S., that DHS deal we talked about, well, it's not exactly a deal anymore. It's on the brink right now. And not just because, as Sean was hinting at yesterday, the president appears lukewarm to it, but also because Democrats, who are very emboldened right now, are moving the goalposts completely, rejecting it and demanding more concessions. What does that mean? Obviously, for airport security, for those TSA officials who are not getting paid, not good news. We're also going to talk about Democrats gloating this morning after they flipped a state house seat in the president's backyard down in Florida, the Palm Beach district that includes Mar-a-Lago. Is this celebration premature? Or is it a sign, again, more signs of good things to come for the left? And we'll also talk about Abigail Spanberger here in Virginia, the new governor, her new partisan lean. This is somebody who obviously has fashioned herself as a moderate, though we all know some people on the show would firmly disagree with that. So, but before we jump in, we're going to talk Cozy Earth. Sean, tell us about your new orders, how awesome they are.
I'm telling you, if you've heard my voice, I got a lot of feedback and medical advice yesterday, by the way. I appreciate everybody. I'm literally stuffing myself with, Dan will tell what I'm probably going to All Family Pharmacy later, but the one nice thing about my day is I decided last night I got everything done early, and I was like, I'm getting into bed. And the only thing I look forward to is putting on that Cozy Earth first layer pajama. And it was so comfortable. I'm so excited. I made the right choices. I told you guys, I got both. I got the first layer and then the bamboo light one. There's nothing that you can go wrong with there. But as the temperatures get warmer, if you've been in the flannel Cozy Earth, which are amazing, and you think, wow, I want something else, try either. I hear this in my tags. I got the first layer pant and then the men's bamboo stretch knit pajama pant. I used our code Huddle at Cozy Earth. And it felt like, hey, guess what? You can buy two because you're saving so much money. You cannot go wrong. The towels, the candles, the eye mask, CozyEarth.com. Use code Huddle, 20% off. You will not be disappointed.
Awesome. Thanks to Cozy Earth. Let's jump into the day book. First item is actually quite fun one. Major League Baseball opening day.
Yeah.
You guys, I mean, are you guys baseball people, both of you?
Oh, yeah. I mean, pull up the poly market here because we want to see. I mean, and it's a surprise to nobody if you're a baseball fan. The Los Angeles Dodgers, 28% of poly market participants think they will win the World Series. I'm a diehard Mets fan.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, grew up in the 80s. Hopeful, but if Dodgers versus the field, I'd take the Dodgers. Sean, how you feeling about your Sox?
We'll see. I did not follow spring training as well as I should have, so I can't weigh in effectively on this. But I always look. I'm a Red Sox fan more than a baseball fan.
Yeah. Okay.
You all know me, not big into sports, but if there's one, sport.
Rachel just wants to see a lot of touchdowns in a baseball game.
I do enjoy a baseball game, mostly because of the, atmosphere. I love Dippin' Dots, and whenever I think about
I
think about
Don't even get me started. Google
Dots.
me and you'll I can't believe you said that. They are not the ice cream of the future. And I'm sorry if they
not, but they're fun. I don't know.
Have you taken Skylar to a game yet?
No.
Okay, because
I haven't taken her to the ballet yet, and that's priority number one. But that will probably happen this year.
There's a playground and a mister in the outfield at Nats Park. I spent so many hours out there years ago. So
they actually have a playground, really?
They do. Yeah, they have a little jungle gym, and
if you walk into the gates, it's on the left. I
love that. Okay,
third base side.
Maybe
you could use it too. Forget Skylar.
I mean, it's not like I'm watching the game or anything.
Sure.
All right, back to politics here in DC. The day book here. CPAC opening day. And for the first time, it looks like the president is not going to be there. Obviously, he has a war to oversee right now, so a little busy. It'll be interesting to see if there are high-profile names taking pot shots at each other like they were during Turning Points USA. Sean, what do you think?
I mean, when you look at the lineup, it's just not. It's not. There's not the big names, and that's going to be I mean, so you do have some MAGA folks there. You've got Jack Pasibic and Bannon and Benny John, but it's not. They're not playing at the same level. So number one, you're not getting that same. They might take pot shots, but you don't have the Tucker, the Megan, the level of that. You don't have the vice president. You don't have several. I mean, there's a couple of cabinet members going, but
yeah,
I don't think you're going to see the fireworks there. They might, again, one or two people might take a pot shot. Ken Paxton is speaking, but I don't think it's definitely not the same level as.
I was just about to ask two quick questions. CPAC usually does a poll. So assume Vance by 60 or so, or we think it may be a little closer. Wait, hold on. Two, Paxton is speaking.
Yep.
I assume he is by far the favorite of this crowd. Any chance that there's news around it? Like, would you throw some chum down there at CPAC?
He's always throwing chum though, right?
No. With Donald Trump.
No,
because, no. Okay.
Oh, I see.
Because here's why. Just to be clear, I think they need every vote in the Senate for the next little while, and I wouldn't risk it.
Okay.
Yeah, makes sense. And would CPAC a lot of Vance backers there? So I would think he's going to do well in that poll. I don't know.
No, that's the question.
Related. CPAC is down in Texas, and we don't have this on the lineup for today, but there was a New York Times story suggesting that the RNC was eyeing Dallas for this sort of midterm convention post Labor Day. We were texting about it, and Dan's remark was something like, "Oh, interesting that this was a Ken Paxton idea, but Dems backed off, and Republicans are actually the ones doing this."
Ken Martin, yeah.
What did I say?
Ken Paxton.
Oh,
it's all right. Freudian
it's day
slip.
3 of the cold, guys. It's day 3 of the cold. Yeah, so that's it. What do you make of Dallas for this?
It's a great pick. I mean, in terms of like you have Dallas, Vegas, and maybe New Orleans. You have to have the hotels, the space. So there's only so many places that you can do something like that. I think it's a good pick.
Yeah, you got the Senate race, the House races. Like there's a political side to it too. Yeah,
maybe the Huddle should go. I'm just going to plant that right there. Okay.
Well,
otherwise,
by the way, just how it manifests itself, because I mean, a convention's really only 3 days. What does this look like? I mean, and how much attention do people pay to something that's not about a presidential nominee?
Yeah.
Let's continue back with the daybook. 10 a.m. House leadership. They'll have their post-conference press conference. I expect a lot of talk about DHS there and the SAVE Act. 11:45, Democrats will be doing the same with their own leadership. The president tonight at 7 o'clock is headlining the NRCC's annual fundraising dinner. This brings in a ton of money for Republicans. Usually he's in a good mood and he takes like pot shots at these guys, but it's funny. Like he makes fun of them in more like a my little brother or older brother way. We'll see what kind of mood he's in tonight, but
yeah, well, I throw that as a traffic warning as well. The dinner's at Union Station. If you are traveling in and out of the greater metropolitan DC area, please take this as your travel advisory.
There you go. Okay, before we dive in, standard housekeeping note here. Please go to YouTube and subscribe to us. We're getting our numbers up, but the more we can push those numbers up, the more eyes we will get, just sort of feeding into the algorithm. Go to YouTube, look us up at the DC Huddle, subscribe, send it to a friend if you've already done that. Somebody who loves politics. It's free, as Sean always likes to note. So we really appreciate your support and for watching. All right, let's jump in, guys. So Iran basically overnight was flipping the bird to the White House and Washington, D.C. There was this Wall Street Journal report overnight that said they wanted a number of things. This is in response to the White House putting out this sort of 15-point peace plan that they, through intermediaries, gave to the Iranians. They responded and said they want the following: the closure of all American bases in the Gulf, the payment of reparations for missile attacks on Iran, lifting of all sanctions, to collect fees for ships transiting the Strait of Hormuz. Obviously, all of this stuff is totally non-starters. Yet at the same time, I want to just remind people of some of the things the president was saying yesterday, where he was during comments in the Oval Office, sort of lashing out at reporters, saying that they were being unfair to him for questioning these talks. And he said that Iran is basically desperate to make a deal. Let's take a listen to this real quickly. Element number one.
Turning point to make you want to pursue a ceasefire. A few days ago, you said you wanted to continue bombing Iran. Now you want to pursue peace talks. Was there something that happened?
The fact that they're talking to us and they're talking sense. And remember, it all starts with they cannot have a nuclear weapon. Just, I said yesterday, they said, what are the top 10? I said, well, number 1, 2, and 3 is they can't have a nuclear weapon. And they're not going to have a nuclear weapon. And we're talking about that. And I don't want to say in advance, but they've agreed they will never have a nuclear weapon. They've agreed to that.
There he is saying they've agreed to never have a nuclear weapon. And here we are getting reports about what they are countering with, which is totally non-starter. Sean, did something happen? Is this just posturing? Like, what do you make of this Wall Street Journal reporting on how they are just totally responding with these non-starters?
So a couple of things. One, as I noted yesterday, well, first, I do think it's funny for a group of reporters. We talked about this yesterday. If they weren't talking, how did they suddenly get 15 points that we submitted, and how did they respond? So case closed on that. It's pretty obvious to every reporter that said that they weren't talking. That clearly wasn't the case.
But the president also casted them as very positive discussions. When
but that's a second issue.
Yeah, okay.
How but first, the first threshold was they weren't. The first threshold was the media said they weren't talking. Well, clearly they were talking because we have
literal versus figurative. Yes.
Okay. Second is look, I think that there are probably multiple channels that they're going through. I thought so there might be some glimmers of hope and optimism among some of the people they're talking to. But I do think that the big takeaway for me for this whole thing is based on Iran's answer that this is not stopping anytime soon. They are not giving up. The idea of coming back and saying, we want reparations, we want this, total control of all of your bases emptied out, and total control of knowing when you're going to, that's like beyond laughable.
It's like, do your worst, go for it.
But I will say that my favorite quote, I just got to say this to you, pull it up. Cause there was quoted, one Trump advisor was quoted in the media as saying, because people were saying that on one hand, he's talking about peace, and on the other hand, he keeps bombing. And the quote that I thought was fascinating is, Trump has a hand open for a deal, and the other hand is a fist waiting to punch you in the effing face.
That's so funny. I flagged that same quote to bring up, Sean.
But it's so true. It's like his hand is, hey, I want to fight it. I want a deal. And if you don't want a deal, I'm going to keep punching you until you say you want a deal. I mean, to me, that's actually how we're going to probably end up, because he's going to keep annihilating them until they get there.
Dan, on that, because I was going to come to you on that. I mean, the Iranian officials, they are suggesting to reporters that they feel like Trump has tried to trick them before. They're pointing back to what happened in June. Talks were ongoing. Then all of a sudden, boom, bombs are coming in. Same thing with a couple of weeks ago before this started. They were engaging in talks. They thought they were going to meet that Monday or something. And then all of a sudden, the war starts. Is this, here, the president's they're not ashamed. They're proud of this. Look, we're going to, like, as Sean was just saying, we've got a fist in one hand and an open hand in the other. But at some point, can't that be counterproductive to trying to actually get someone to the table to make a deal?
Well, no, it's just like we dropped the bomb on Japan, and then Japan said, all right, let's talk. I think, look, Sean said this before this even started, which is it's hard to trust Iran. They're slippery. They just are. The Iranians can say Trump was being dishonest. The Americans would say they were going to talk us into the ground and in circles and give a little, but take a little, and you can't deal with them. I think the bottom line is what Sean said, which is I don't think we are truly close to a deal. I think this continued troop buildup, as we all say, they're not going there for fun. It is likely that something is fairly imminent in the next week or so. Chances are we are going to either attempt to take the shoreline of the Strait, Karg Island, and or go after the nuclear material. And Iran is, holding on. While at the same time, the administration is right. They are largely successful in terms of knocking out, slowly but surely asset after asset after asset. They still have drones. They still have some missiles. But, it's hard to argue if you're Iran, you're only winning or you're not losing because you survive. But it's getting harder and harder to survive. So it just is going to, I think, become a little test of wills.
So this comes as leaders are talking about having this meeting in Islamabad tomorrow. Pakistan, Turkey, Egypt pushing for this meeting between the U.S. and Iran. This is not going to happen, right, guys?
Well,
What do you think is? What do you think is? What are the chances?
I think the meeting might happen, but
Right.
there's nothing that's going to substantively come of it. And if it does, I mean, this goes back to what Dan said that I said, which is I don't trust a damn thing they say anyway. So who cares?
Right.
They're going to say whatever. I mean, if someone's bombing you or punching you, and this is why, I mean, not to make a out of the blue analogy, but part of the reason that people claim that waterboarding never works is that somebody at some point will say whatever it says to stop getting waterboarded, and you can't trust the utterance. So I believe Iran will at some point, just to make the shelling stop, say, uncle, and I don't believe that it'll be true. So part of me is I think our strategy should just be like to annihilate them for 3-4 more weeks, make them crumble, and then rebuild it.
Well, but this is the issue.
When I say rebuild it, I'm not talking about that. That was figuratively. I'm not talking about.
But I mean, this is the challenge, which is at the end of the day, we've always said this. What do you do about the regime? Because to Sean's point, let's say they cut a deal. They're never going to give you all of their nuclear materials. I mean, just at that point, they lose all deterrent. This 20-year, drive they've spent tens of billions of dollars has gone to waste. And this is where we haven't mentioned it, Israel. We keep saying to be a fly on the wall for Netanyahu because the Israelis want regime change. They want to finish the job. And they seem to have more patience because it's a greater threat to them than to us. And so what do you do? Let's say they meet in Islamabad and they truly start to say, look, we'll ship some of this to Moscow and we'll, Sean, would you trust them? I mean, and the regime stays in place?
No. Look, there in any scenario in which the regime stays in place, it's you're just buying time.
Yeah.
I mean, they might say something to get you a month or even a year or whatever, but this is an ideology to them.
Yeah.
Just to flag, in case folks missed it, the Pentagon is deploying another round of troops. See, the Army's elite 82nd Airborne Division to the Middle East, 3,000 soldiers. Guys, if you had to pinpoint a day that we're going to go in, what day is it? I mean, I would be surprised if this happens by the weekend.
I was going to say, should we just say now for what to watch for this weekend? This is too obvious. You can't. Yeah.
There's something about Fridays in this administration. Like
that's because the market's
Friday nights is, okay.
Now, can I make a point? You just noted the 82nd Airborne, right?
Sure.
What did I say a few days ago about the major ship that's flowing in the Tripoli?
Oh, watch that one or something. Yeah.
No. But there's again, part of it was the point that I was making then is its assets. Yeah. And all of this appears to be an air campaign. So you're going to go in, you're not going to bring people in on land like a D-Day deal where you use an LCAC and bring them on shore. They're going to be dropped in. Yeah. So you're going to see a bunch of people by helicopters get brought in, drop down.
Yeah. Let's do a quick all-family pharmacy before we go to our next topic.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. So, the other day I had to bring one of our kids back to school, and as Sean coughs, another one. It's allergy season is starting. If you have family members, at least up here, you start it a couple weeks ahead of time, so you can start to get it in your bloodstream before the pollen really gets bad. And thought all-family pharmacy. Of course, I would never do it while you're driving because that would be totally inappropriate. But, it's when you're busy, this is one of those things. We always talk about it. You go to allfamilypharmacy.com. Fill out a short medical form. A licensed doctor reviews your request, and if appropriate, they provide the prescription. Comes right to your door. You can stock up on all the essentials. They have hundreds of prescription medications that families rely on. So as life happens, which it does for all of us, it is very convenient to go to allfamilypharmacy.com. But remember to do a /Huddle, allfamilypharmacy.com/Huddle. and use the code Huddle10 to get 10% off your order today. Because I can tell you that allergy medication is not cheap sometimes. So don't forget to get the 10% off.
Awesome. Thanks to All Family Pharmacy. Let's come back to politics, obviously, here. So the DHS deal, as I said at the top, it's on the brink right now. And this is just totally fascinating. It's not just on the brink because the president is sort of lukewarm to it, but Democrats are flatly rejecting what Republicans have offered them, even though they floated this idea themselves, this notion of carving out some ICE funding, right? So you can fund the rest of the Department of Homeland Security department, carve out ICE enforcement, deportation efforts, etc. Now they're saying that in order to vote for something like that, even though Republicans are willing to right now, they want concessions for that. It is, in my view, this is very clearly
Iran or the Democrats.
Pardon?
Dun.
Oh, there you go. It is a fact that they are moving the goalposts here. I know Democrats are saying they didn't. They are not, but they are. Dan, at some point, I know they feel really confident right now. Democrats feel confident. We talked about them feeling very, very emboldened that the public is going to blame the administration, Republicans, not them. But at some point, if Republicans keep offering these deals and they're saying, no, can't this flip? Will this flip the public sentiment?
Well, I mean, we were texting yesterday about this. I mean, you're winning until you're not. And that's what would worry me if you're Democrats. Look, they believe until they see a shred of evidence that they are losing or in danger of losing, the losing being the public narrative and getting blamed politically, they are going now for complete and utter victory, which is all 10 of their demands being met. And I said this yesterday, to them, it's gone from like 2 of 10 to 5 of 10 to 7 of 10. And they're like, why should we stop the momentum?
Yeah.
But again, to your point, Rachel, my worry would be that if these lines get worse and worse and worse, and Easter is coming up, so a lot of people traditionally travel around Easter to go visit family, that if all of a sudden you start to lose, it could rapidly, like you could lose a lot of momentum. And given we have the macro political momentum, at some point, I think I would think you take a deal, but I get their point of view, which is, why should we stop?
Sean, I want to get your reaction. Like, I've been asking people about this because back during the last shutdown last fall, I was vocally predicting that Democrats would take a lot of the blame, that they would ultimately fold. I ended up being wrong on that. And the politics of this have totally shifted. I asked somebody how it was, like a Democrat, senior Democrat, how it was that they have been able to basically escape blame for a lot of this stuff. And not entirely, obviously some voters blame them, but most voters are blaming Republicans. How have they been doing this? And the senior Democrat said to me that it was because, you know, the administration, when they first came in, they made such, you know, a stink about Doge. You had Elon Musk on the stage with the chainsaw. And so the public narrative regarding Republicans is that they don't care about federal workers and they just want to cut things. And so they are the ones taking the blame, even as people like yourself are making the case that TSA workers are really hurting. And Democrats, to be fair, are the ones hurting them. Like, what do you think about that? How has it been that they are not getting more blame for this?
Well, I mentioned yesterday, I think the number one reason is that when you listen to the narrative, if you turn on the TV, for the most part, people who are seeing it aren't being told why, right? So it looks like it's spring break season and you go, wow, there's a big line. I mean, most of the media is covering for the Democrats on this and saying that, you know, there's long lines at TSA as the government shuts down. They're not pointing a finger. If this was the Republicans, they'd say Republicans failed to vote to keep it open. They're not putting the blame on Democrats for the average voter right now. They're not seeing it as a Democratic shutdown. And frankly, Dan points this out all the time and he's right. And Republicans aren't doing a damn thing to pin the tail on the donkey here, literally and figuratively. I mean, we are doing such a bad job. I said this to Ron Johnson, was on the show. Why are you guys not at Reagan National Airport? He was like, well, we won't get coverage. And I was like, we are not doing a good job of putting the blame where it should be. And the media is all too happy to make sure that they don't expose that. So I think that's the biggest thing. But I'll tell you, the other thing that Ron Johnson told me on the show, and I was a little skeptical of him at the time, is he said Democrats don't want a deal. I mean, for their own internal, like their view is why would, like, there's no reason for us to deal. They actually will probably pay a political price with their base for cutting a deal. And this last 24 hours just proves it. They don't want, they want to isolate ICE. And I will say one last thing. This notion of us isolating ICE and passing everything else is exactly what the Democrats want. And this would be a horribly stupid move to give it to them.
Yeah. I mean, I've been saying for weeks that I don't think Dems want a deal. It's just not where their base wants. And like, why would until
Well,
they,
but
as
don't
Dan,
look,
go ahead.
but I
Dan.
mean, here's the thing. Our party right now is not divided on this issue. I may think, hey, like I'm getting a little nervous that at some point we could have a problem, but we don't now.
Yeah.
Republicans are divided.
Yeah.
Rachel, you texted yesterday, Josh Hawley saying, hey, I don't like all these offers that we're making on, like, I got a problem with some of this stuff.
Yeah.
So again, to our party, it is your side is totally divided. The politics are on our side on the issue of ICE and on the shutdown. What is the incentive for us to give? And I get it. I totally get the raw politics of that.
Yeah. I want to get to Republicans being divided on this for a second, but just a quick note. I don't understand how it was that John Thune or these Republicans that went to the White House and tried to get the president to accept this current offer they made to Democrats. How did they not first double check to make sure that if they gave this concession, that there would be Democrats there? I mean, that seems like congressional discussions 101. Like, what if you're going to give such a big concession saying that you would carve out ICE funding? Wouldn't you think they would have some sort of awareness about whether or not like that would actually be received well? Like, it just seems like Republicans on the Hill have been, at least the negotiators, caught completely off guard by the fact that Democrats are not going there. And all it would take is like a quick call or a discussion on the Senate floor to see that these guys, they're not going to accept that. But anyway, I want to talk to you, Sean, first about the president and his lukewarm receptions to this. So he was asked about this deal by reporters in the Oval yesterday, and he said, I'm going to look at it. We're going to take a hard look at it. I want to support Republicans. But he also said, I think any deal they make, I'm pretty much not happy with it. There's no way they can, even if Democrats said yes to this, like say you get like 8 Senate Democrats, they can't get this over the finish line without him vocally endorsing it, right?
Probably, and then sticking with it.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is if he has a history. So he'll be on board on the plan. And then, because again, think about this. You rush in the office, you paint the prettiest picture possible. This is how this is going to go. You say, great, I'm on board. And then 20 minutes later, 4 other people walk in and go, do you realize that what they didn't tell you? Here's the downside to that deal. Boom, 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 boom. And he goes, wait a second.
Yeah.
He's done this before. Asked, go see the Paul Ryan movie. And and you'll realize, and so part of this is that when they walk in, I will say, to your point, Thune, I don't believe was there. It was Katie Britt and others, and they're sold them on, hey, here's the upside. And oh, by the way, we can do the rest through reconciliation. I mean, I don't even think of the analogy right now. It's like, that's like, we can go eat this dinner, and then all we need to do is win the lottery right after, and we'll be fine. And it's like, you present this rosy scenario to him where like, we'll take care of all the other funding and such through reconciliation. That's not exactly an easy lift. And so I think sometimes he gets sold a bill of goods by these guys that make it seem like what they're proposing is actually really easy and possible.
Well,
So
and look,
go ahead.
I mean, just again, I'm going to come back to the Democrats for a second. Not only are Republican senators divided, Republicans in the White House are divided, right? So again, what is the incentive for us to help them as they are going off the cliff? They're in the majority. The public just says at the end of the day, we have one president and one party controlling Congress. So
the incentive is to do the right thing, but that comes second to politics, I suppose.
Yeah. Somewhere there's a famous Mitch McConnell quote, my job is to defeat Barack Obama. That's how they see it. My job is to win the majority.
I'm kidding.
Yeah.
Serious, but also understand politics. This is a pretty cynical town. So what comes first? All right, let's move on to Florida. Yeah.
By the way, can I one last thing? We've talked about this. We are heading into this Easter spring break-ish, and I will be interested if this does create a breaking point.
Yeah.
And it's very interesting. I talked to somebody the other day who flew out of one airport and on the way to DC, and I said, how was it? And they go, 3-minute wait.
Yeah.
Then I talked to somebody else and they were like, it was a disaster. Where this goes back to your question initially, Rachel, why aren't people? Is because it depends on where you are, how much you're feeling this.
Yeah. That's a good question. We should look at like what are the worst lines?
Oh, they
worst
have them.
backlogs,
They
and are they
CNN tracking it. I mean, LaGuardia is terrible.
right? It's
Atlanta,
Democrat
horrible.
areas, right? I
No,
think.
no, no. It's
Oh.
it's bipartisan because
I
some
see.
airports even are subcontracted and those contracts are already paid. So the TSA agents are paid and they're, they should have no problems.
I'm just saying those members will feel, you would think would feel more
You
pressure.
would think.
Yeah.
Yep.
By the way, chances that we go into spring break without this, I mean, it seems pretty certain that we're going to go into spring break without this resolved, right?
Well, don't forget too, the Senate's supposed to go on recess next week and they're saying no, but some are not happy. And that sometimes is an incentive to cut a deal.
There is always this talk about canceling recess when perhaps they should, because they should be doing their jobs. But like, I'm skeptical they'll cancel recess if they don't have a deal. What do you think, Sean?
I think that because they worked, for like an hour last Saturday, that they won't. It was funny. One of the amendments, the Tommy Tuberville amendment on transgender, lost because Republicans. There were, I think,
Not
3
enough.
Republicans weren't there. Some of them just don't show up anyway.
Yeah, we'll see. Okay, let's move on to Florida. So Democrats voting this morning after they flipped this state house seat that includes Mar-a-Lago. Trump carried this district, it sounds like, by 10 points last time. And now you've got a Democrat who's going to be overseeing it. You have Ken Martin last night who was bragging about this. He said, if Democrats can win in Trump's own backyard, we can win anywhere. Last night, House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries was basically daring Ron DeSantis to go further with redistricting. He might be eating his words pretty soon on that one. But there is some question about whether this was a huge victory, right? I mean, like, doesn't this area have Democratic elected official? I mean, let's start with Sean here because he's the skeptic. Is this a victory lap that's, too early?
Well, look, here's the way I'll always preface this. A win is a win. Politics is a game of winning and losing. And if close doesn't count. It's not horseshoes. And so if you win a race, you get to brag. If you lose a race, you can make excuses, but it's like any other game, sport. Your record is what you get judged on. And no one turns around and says, yeah, but they were all close games. I mean, coaches get fired all the time by losing a bunch of close games. So if I were the Democrats, I'd be proud of their victory. They have a right to this is the game we're in. Is it something that I would freak out about? No, but it is another warning sign for us, which is, what are we not realizing? No one puts a ton of money into a race like that. It's a special state rep district, but it was a Republican seat. It was carried by by Trump. We should have held it. So again, it's not, this is one of those ones where it's like going to the doctor and them saying, you're not sick, but I'd keep an eye on this.
Yeah. Dan?
Yeah. I mean, look, I think the thing that the good news is it was a 13-point swing, and between 11 and 13 points now since last February of 2025 has been about the margin of Democratic overperformance. So I think the only macro thing you would say is it appears, again, one state race, that the winds have not calmed at all. And that's going to be the thing that we'll keep measuring from now until, these things stop and we get to November, is just, are there any signs of the momentum accelerating for Democrats, meaning like 13, 15, 17 point, because then more seats come on the board, or is it starting to deaccelerate a little bit? And maybe Republicans are getting a little bit of mojo back. So, 13 points exactly was the swing, consistent.
Yeah. We were texting about Michael Rosa, who worked for Jill Biden.
He watches the show often. We love him. Yep.
Yes, he's great. He's fabulous. Was tweeting, sort of pouring cold water all over Democrats being excited about this, saying that Palm Beach has been represented by a Democrat in Congress for 13 years and that this particular state house seat is in a blue county with a D+ advantage, basically saying they shouldn't get too excited. But
I mean, look, the county is Democratic, and he's right. Harris won it, Biden won it.
Sure.
It's just in this district, again, it is a state house special election. Take it, but to Sean's point, if Kamala Harris's home district had flipped, do I think Republicans would spike a football? Of course.
Yeah. Let's come up to Virginia. Well, actually, we'll talk here in this next segment about two sort of newly elected Democratic governors who were both considered centrist by their parties, although some Republicans would dispute that. They're doing two totally different approaches. You have Mikey Sherrill in New Jersey, who's sort of head down right now, doing her work. And then here in Virginia, Abigail Spanberger, who we all know is Sean's favorite governor in the United States right now, she's really leaning into her team colors, the partisan fight, as you would say. There's this obviously April 21st referendum allowing states to redraw their current 6-5 map, which is 6 Democrats, 5 Republican seats to a 10-1 advantage. She's like basically embracing this. Let's take a look at this ad she is posting today supporting this referendum.
Abigail Spanberger, and I'm voting yes on Virginia's redistricting amendment. It's directly in response to what other states decide to do, and a president who says that he's, quote, entitled to more Republican seats before this year's midterms. Our approach is different. It's temporary. It preserves Virginia's fair redistricting process into the future. At this extraordinary moment, I urge all Virginians to join me in voting yes by April 21st.
Dan, we have debated on
Quote
the show.
Joe Wilson, you lie.
Sean, I'm going to come to you in a second. But Dan, first, we've debated on this show about whether she's really a moderate. Both myself and Sean have said she's not. I mean, look, like during the campaign, she ran away from the trans issue completely. She backed that AG candidate who said that thing about wishing his opponent, I can't remember his name right now, wanting his opponent to be dead.
Jay Jones.
Yeah, and his opponent's kids to be dead. Yes, Jay Jones. One of the first moves she made as governor was to sort of bar local police and law enforcement from working with immigration officials.
Massive gun grab.
There you go. Another one. Look, this is overshadowing her image as a moderate. Like, she is shedding that. Would you agree?
Yes, I would. I think some of the things that have been tossed at her, like I've had to go Google, right? When Sean mentioned Boeing, I was like, wow. Turns out Boeing is actually keeping their corporate headquarters in Virginia. They're just sending some of their divisions back to where 90% of the employees are. But that said, I think the danger for her is she is appearing to be more of a show horse than a workhorse, which is she is embracing issues up front in the beginning that appeal to the base. And then when she's getting pummeled by conservative media largely, and even the Washington Post and others now are starting to take note of this, there is just kind of an indifference to it. There is a nothing to see here. And so I have actually heard, and Sean, you've said this, the redistricting thing I thought was a slam dunk. I am not so sure it is a slam dunk. The early vote right now, at least what we're seeing, is very strong in traditionally strong Republican areas. Now, you don't know. I think this ad is not a coincidence on that front, but it is surprising that Spanberger is doing this. And then Cheryl, on the other hand, you don't see her in the news very much. She has started this federal PAC. Somebody told you, a year and a half ago, they do have an interest in at least keeping the 2028 option open.
Oh, Dan, we lost you.
Oh, there you are. We lost your voice for a second.
Spanberger's getting in a danger zone.
It's Virginia too, which is this was ground zero for parents rising up during the pandemic, with the blowback on Democratic leaders and Democratic local officials who are keeping school closed. I mean,
the other thing is, why did Virginia go blue like Colorado? Because we did
affordability issues. Because
we did not focus, the right focused on all these, Christian conservative issues. And voters said, hey, wait, time out. We are a little bit more we're pro-business, but don't bring us the social stuff. And now we're starting to get into the social stuff and paying a price. So I'm not sure what they're thinking.
Well, I mean, just on the referendum itself, I think this is going to be really interesting. So our first, and I'm just trying to remember, if it's this Saturday or next. We have early voting right now, and then Saturday early voting starts. I apologize if either this weekend or next week. That is really big for the Black community, where the Democrats do a good job of getting people from going to church, out, whatever. There is a big lag right now in key areas of Virginia where they should be doing well. But again, from the Democratic standpoint, they had sort of a similar issue with Spanberger last time. Like leading up to the race, they didn't see the early signs that they should have, and Spanberger still won overwhelmingly. So I think there's a little issue right now where we're pausing to see how well we're doing or not. The issue, as I've said, that I have with what Spanberger's doing right now and what Obama and others is Gavin Newsom, at least in California, was straight up honest. I'm doing this because of this. Here's what's happened. Virginia held a constitutional amendment throughout the Commonwealth in 2020. It passed 63%, where it said we want to take redistricting and gerrymandering out of the hands of politicians. For them to get on and say that it's temporary is just a patent lie. It's not temporary. It's till the next census. That's the law. That's not temporary, right? And to say it's fair, it's not. If you want to say, hey, we're doing this in response to Texas, God bless you. Just be honest. But what Abigail Spanberger is doing is, and Barack Obama is lying to the people of Virginia to say that Republicans are stealing seats in Virginia. We're not stealing anything. We're losing seats in Virginia. We're not rigging the election. It's quite the opposite. So I have a problem. Like, look, all's fair in politics, and I admit that. Like, go for it. But I find that when Republicans do stuff, we're purveyors of misinformation. We're sowing seeds of undermining democracy. And yet when Barack Obama and Abigail Spanberger do it, no one says a damn thing. What she has done is literally, between the guns, the taxes, and some of her other rights, she has literally destroyed the Commonwealth of Virginia in under 3 months. She should be a champion. The thing that I find fascinating, to be honest with you, is that she is to the left of Zoran Mondami, and she's not getting the credit. I feel like if she wants to go this far left, own it, become the big hero to the far left, get Bernie Sanders and AOC to come in here and applaud you.
Once it looks like she realized that this referendum is politically risky she tucks in that word temporary. Did you guys catch that?
No.
Like,
That's in the no. That's in the ballot question. They literally put it in the ballot. I mean,
and maybe that's how they're another way that they're sort of.
Oh yeah,
that's what John was just talking about. Yeah.
They literally said in the ballot question, it's not it's literally like a political thing. It says to temporarily do this to restore fairness. Like
temporarily.
It's a joke what they have done.
Dan, question. So this could benefit them obviously in these midterms, but like this also stretches those districts thin. Like it makes it easier for a Republican wave.
Which is every time you redistrict, you usually in order to try to run up the score. This is true, like in Texas too.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, let's move on to one of our final topics here. Meta.
Your microphone.
My microphone's out?
No, Dan.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. So New York Times, this headline here, Meta ordered to pay $375 million over child safety violations. So there's a ton of lawsuits going after Meta right now, but this is like the big first one, right? Yep. Right. I mean, New Mexico jurors find that they had misled consumers about the safety of their platforms, basically enabling children to be sexually exploited by predators. Sean, let's start with you on this because I know this is an issue you're following very closely. Obviously, it shows that they can lose and they can go down.
That's the big signal, Rachel. The idea that Meta, with all of their resources, if you go back and look historically on like big food, big tech, big pharma, I mean, they go in, they understand that like having a perfect win record is critical going forward. For big tech to lose like this was massive. It's going to send a huge chilling signal. I'm sure they'll appeal it, but the point is that I think for everyone who's wondered, should you take on Facebook and Meta? Absolutely. This should open the floodgates for going after them. I cannot underscore the damage that the next generation of Americans has been done by Mark Zuckerberg. He should be in jail for what he has done. And I'm glad that he's paying the price that he's paying. I hope that they add on more and more people sue them. What they have done to addict young children to garbage should not be, I'm so happy on this lawsuit, and I hope more people pile up and just sue the heck out of them.
Dan?
I'm not sure how Sean really feels. I think you go back to the history of big companies, whether it's tobacco or whatnot, it is often these local lawsuits that start something. So I'll be curious to see if other states now bring forward similar charges. If Meta starts looking to cut deals to get ahead of this, it's interesting. It's like politics. You'd rather win than lose.
So does this
and-
lead to some sort of ban on, some of these things for kids under a certain age? Like, I guess that would obviously have to be done at a federal level. Yeah,
I
for
mean,
sure.
look, it's Rahm's talking about it. I mean, what candidate wants to defend not doing it? I
Right.
mean, it's interesting because at the same time, I mean, the other thing we have here is this fight in Arkansas where people do not want some of these, centers. I don't know. I mean,
Dan is referring to, you're talking about this MAGA.
yeah, I mean,
rebellion.
it's an immigration, fight, but it's just the lines of all this stuff are scrambling, whether it's immigration or big tech.
Well, and you think about this. I mean, look, you mentioned Rahm on big tech. The wave is going. Who leads on this? And I think Rahm has done a good job of calling this out. Somebody's going to get credit for championing this and pulling it over the line. Australia's already put a ban on kids under 16.
16.
It's going to start becoming the new thing. Every study after study after study after study shows that technology and social media cutoff in schools is good for learning, is good for brains. Turning on, but the worst thing you can do in the morning is turn on that stuff. The hit of dopamine is hurting people. So this is, I mean, Dan referenced big tobacco. This is so akin to that because it literally is this is the equivalent of big tobacco right now. And what are we doing to turn around and educate people on what's, the equivalent of healthy living?
Dan just sort of reference this other story we have in this segment. Sean, want to get your take on this MAGA rebellion over a $825 million plan for this Arkansas Alcatraz. So rural residents are fighting Sarah Huckabee Sanders, the governor, for this prison plan. I mean, she's obviously potentially, I mean, she hasn't said, but like presidential hopeful one of these days. Like, does she need to be careful on this?
We need to be careful on any issue that, especially anything that's local, that's parochial, you've got to be careful of. So if we talked about AI farms, prisons, all these things that really affect people's way of life, you've got to be careful of. And there's a balance. So, I mean, yes, you always have to be careful. I think especially when you're a governor or a mayor and you're living in that community or living in that state, and you've got to realize that, like, it's not like being president where when you decree some national park, something that you're never probably going to even visit it. Here, they're in that community, they're in that state. So they've got to be sensitive to these things.
Well, it's an immigration detention center and people don't want it. And so again, this is like, whether it's the AI data centers or this idea that like everything is tribal, all the R's are in one place, all the D's are in the other. It's this scrambled kind of on the ground that is fascinating to watch as it goes and moves up onto the federal level.
Yeah. Is she going to run, by the way, Sean?
I don't know that she'll run again. I mean, I don't think she would take on JD. I see her as a very attractive vice presidential candidate. But I think, will she run for president someday? I fully believe so.
Sean, let me ask you this. If Vance is at, let's say, 38, 40, Marco's in like 30, 35, like at the end of this year. And therefore, you're Sarah Huckabee Sanders and you say to yourself, all right, there's going to be a race. Right. Let's just say Marco, whatever, announces he's leaving to spend time with his family, but he's really going to start getting ready. Would you not think about jumping in?
So the interesting thing about all of this,
run positive, don't go negative to preserve.
Right. I mean, I think you could potentially do it almost as the way that like Doug Burgum did it. He was a happy warrior out there talking about great issues, and it worked out well for him. Sure, I think it's not a bad idea. But you got to be careful that you're not putting an L on your scorecard. We talked about winning and losing a little while ago. Do you want to be the person that ran and didn't get to Iowa? But look, Kamala Harris became vice president. Joe Biden fell short, became vice president. So there's a history. So you could potentially do it if you went into it with the right mentality.
Yeah.
I think the one caveat that is different is, remember we talked about J.D. Vance's other role as being the chairman of the finance committee over at the RNC. He has a lot of say into how they're going to draw the map, how they'll make the rules. And that says a lot. Like, so you are walking into literally a system that is somebody else gets to call balls and strikes on.
Yeah. Ask Bernie Sanders how that went.
All right, guys, let's take some questions. All right, Independent Sue from Colorado. Trump voters, MAGA trust Trump and will give him the time with the economy, the war, etc. That 30% of Americans. Why should the non-Trump skeptical voter trust the economy when the economy is so bad? We're at war. All things Trump said he would fix and hasn't. It's not unpatriotic to question Trump.
I mean, look, good points. I think the MAGA percentage may be a little higher than 30%. It may be closer to like 40, 42. Look, I think this goes to what we've said for a while, which is it's the last 3 or 4 election cycles have been super close in this country. And there's probably 5 to 10% that truly move back and forth. Today, they are frustrated with a lot of the things that you mentioned, the economy, the war, immigration. I don't know if they love Democrats. I mean, that's the issue. We're benefiting from Republican, kind of screw ups or whatever, frustration with Republicans, but it's not like they're like, yeah, I like those guys. And that to me would be the risk, that somehow Trump and Republicans find a way to either scare the hell out of them or offer them an incentive, like the economy picks up or, great foreign policy stuff.
Yeah, I would say that's the one aside from the money, the other real advantage that Republicans have right now is the fact that Democrats' image is so tarnished.
Yep.
Sue, I agree with Dan. I'd say that pretty much I would have nailed that same number. I think the MAGA number is probably closer to 42. I also think that, like, when you say the economy is so bad, I'm not sure that that's true. I mean, I think that there are some concerning, some areas of concern that we need to keep an eye on, but there's a lot of really strong aspects of the economy. It's definitely not bad. I think that there is some concern now with gas prices and the effect that the war will have on GDP, but I would never classify it as bad. I think that in general, voters should be skeptical and saying to any politician, hey, what have you done for me lately? That's their job, is to keep working for you and to keep doing things. President Trump, I think, has delivered for America on the agenda that he campaigned on. But I think there's a lot of, part of what we've talked about before is we got to keep moving the ball forward. I actually think we got to keep reforming government. We got to keep doing things to make more efficiency. We got to make the economy stronger. So I think that I think he's doing a very solid job, but I think that every voter should be saying to every politician up and down the ballot, keep working for me.
Let's take another one. Okay. Let's see. Is Thune an effective leader? Question. The shutdown was his fault for delaying the vote, and now there's no clear messaging from him on who shut down the government and why TSA lines are so long. Is Thune an effective leader? Sean, would you like to take that?
It's interesting. I was watching this in the chat come up, and I started to think about this before. First of all, thank you for the super chat.
Yes.
Secondly, the thing about as I saw this question come up, I thought to myself about McConnell. There's a lot that people hate on McConnell for, but the one thing that he did, he was a masterful tactician within the Senate. He knew the rules, he knew how to navigate things, and he had like a strategy to get things done. And at the end of the day, he might not have been the most skillful orator or like public strategist, but he knew how to get things over the finish line: judges, nominees, pieces of legislation, etc. I think Thune, we'll see. The jury's out on that. He's still new. But where I think he's falling short, to be blunt, is not going out there and articulating this. Walking into the Senate gallery and giving a press conference with 3 other senators to NBC News and ABC is not getting the word out. They need to sell this. They need to be out there more. They need to be doing. I've pollster after pollster after pollster that comes on my show in the evening says, we are missing the platforms. We're not going where voters are. President Trump went to Theo Vaughn, Nelk Boys, Patrick Bet-David, Joe Rogan. And the number of Republicans that are out there doing the same thing is like 2. Eric Schmidt from Missouri, fantastic job. Ron Johnson from Wisconsin, fantastic job. And then it trails off. These guys have got to do more and meet voters where they are. And that includes the leader. He's got to be out there a lot more. And it just, I don't see it. I don't know what he's doing. I get it's a busy job, but you ran for it.
Well, I think though that in fairness to Thune, the challenge he has is he serves at the pleasure of the president, really. And the problem is they can't focus on this because of all the other stuff going on. I watched the whole rollout Republicans had last week on the SAVE Act. John Thune was on with Brett Baer. He was on other Fox programs, all on the SAVE Act. So the problem is they can't clear the decks. Like when the shutdown happened with Obama, you had cabinet secretaries doing press conferences in parks in front of trash piling up, right? They just hammered home every day. Here are the consequences and the costs of the shutdown to your life. And voters said, gosh darn it, spring break, I want to take my kids to Yellowstone. I can't, it's closed. Republicans are out talking about Arctic frost, the 2020 election, the SAVE Act, wars. It's anything but the shutdown.
But that was the second point I was going to make, which was they are reacting to the president, right? Like Thune was under attack for how long for not bringing up SAVE Act, and then he felt like he had to. I mean, maybe he should have done it sooner, as you said, Sean, and then it wouldn't be coming in the middle of this when he should be messaging on DHS. But like, there was a huge pressure campaign, including from the man in the Oval Office, for them to do SAVE, and by doing that, they're not focusing on this other thing. The other thing I was going to say about Thune is I feel like, the games of congressional politics are just changing so much right now. I mean, like, he comes from an era where if you make a demand in a government spending negotiation and you shut the government down, you typically get blamed and you don't get anything for it. That is changing. I mean, last fall, this question brought up the fact that he didn't bring up certain votes. Thune was drawing like an ethical, moral line, which was like, you don't take government funding hostage last year. Like, he had a reason for doing what he was doing, but like the politics have just shifted so significantly and surprised even longtime Hill followers like myself, where I thought for sure Democrats would be caving and that they wouldn't do this. It wouldn't go this far, but ultimately, it is a lot different. So I think like he's going to have to think, quicker because like the politics of like, it's just totally different up there right now. So let's take another question. Okay, besides Trump, another super chat, by the way. Besides Trump, who could have beaten Hillary in 2016? Interesting question.
Is that from the Republican side, or are we talking? Because Joe Biden's going to go to his grave that he would have beaten her. I mean, he just. Oh, well, he is.
I assume this is that's a good.
I think it's the Republican side.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to remember the field. Oh my gosh.
It's Jeb Bush, Marco, Chris Christie.
Was that the Scott Walker year too, or was that?
No, that was 12, before? Right? Scott Walker was 12 with Mitt Romney.
Yeah.
No, Scott. No. Scott 16. Scott
16,
Walker.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
He was Tim Pawlenty was 12. That was it.
Yeah. Tim. Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, it's a good, interesting question. I mean, I think head to head, Marco probably could have beat her. It's interesting.
She was so disliked. I mean, that's the whole thing. The media narrative never captured was how much like Democrats just like were like, oh, this is her moment, blah, blah, blah. Like there was this lead up to it for years, like that she was the person and she was the ultimate, person to beat. But then like the media never really captured this notion of how unpopular she was with a lot of independent voters who were just never going to vote for her, right?
Well, not just that, she was unpopular with parts of the party. I mean, the number of people who said I'm going to hold my nose and vote for her, including older white women who should have been her base. Look, I mean, for all this, she came within a whisker still of winning. And, her camp will say till they, die that had James Comey that 10 days out not announced what he did, they think that was the circuit breaker in their opinion.
Yeah. But I mean, look, I say this, like, sometimes when you have these questions, Trump brought a lot of people to the party that never would have voted. So like, what's that worth? How much did Hillary? I mean, like, it's one of those sort of seesaw things. For every time you put something on, you take something off. And I don't know. I mean, I can make a case that Marco could have beaten her, or Chris Christie, or Jeb Bush. But you can't. I think that Trump's unorthodox campaign
100%
is such an X factor. I mean, like the stuff that he did that, like, I've admitted this. I was like, I don't know that we can even do that. And he's like, we're doing it. And you're like, boom.
Well,
like,
just start with the fact of his platform. He was anti-immigration reform, everyone we mentioned, Jeb, Marco, Christie, were all for pathway to citizenship. The wars, they were all neocons. Trump was not.
Yeah.
Free trade, they were all free traders. So like, to Sean's point, the reason Trump was such a phenomenon is not only was he tactically and strategically a genius, but his platform was against everything.
That's what I'm saying. Like to go through and analyze something like this is like in a college seminar class, because Trump brought so much different to the party and to the dialogue and the tactic. I mean, like everything was just so like unorthodox, different, guerrilla marketing. I mean, like he didn't do stuff that it was like he did it his way and it worked.
There you go. All right, guys, we are at time. Sean, what do you have coming up on your show today?
Well, we're gonna keep the fire going. Roger Stone's coming on, and there's you want to talk about MAGA infighting? Roger and Steve Bannon have been going at it.
They have.
There's a lot of other stuff. So he's never disappoints, and I don't expect him to tonight.
What is the backstory there? Like I've seen.
I honestly don't know, and that's one of my questions. I'm just for full disclosure, I'm saving it to the end because I don't know how he's going to take to it.
Sean, you were there in 16. Were they aligned in 16, or did they operate in different silos? Same goal.
Roger was threatening a lot during the convention, rather. Like if you don't, because remember, there's this whole movement to try to unbind the delegates, and Roger was like, "I'm going to expose any." I mean, I honestly can't even remember where everybody was. I know, obviously, he was pro-Trump. Steve was pro-Trump. So I don't know if.
Okay.
All right. Should be a fun
Tune in.
one. All right, guys. We will be back tomorrow at 8:30. Thanks for joining. We will see you then.